Hey guys, Hayden here from Alarm System Store, and today I'm bringing you an alarm system upgrade video. I get asked a lot how hard it is to upgrade a system, especially hardwired systems, just because they look intimidating when you go to the panel and look at all the wiring, but it's really not bad at all. So I decided to document a system swap that we did and make a video out of it for you guys. And basically all I do is set up the new system, get it all programmed, and then install it. Whole process probably took me 4.5 to 5 hours. Somebody knew it might take a little bit longer, but hopefully this helps you guys out and shows you how easy it is to get one of these upgrades done. It's doable by everybody. That's why we came up with this business. Do it yourself is by far, in my opinion, the way to go. It makes you completely in control of whatever you want for your system. So anyway, hope you guys enjoy the video. I'm going to start over at the table programming the new system.
Okay, so this is basically what our system setup is going to look like. As you can tell, I got it all laid out on a table. Now, this is not a good method for testing the system. You want to do that after everything is fully installed, but if you're just getting everything programmed and ready to go, this is a decent way to make sure your modules are enrolled, make sure your zones are programmed, make sure everything's set up programming wise that you want to do, and then all we're going to do is unhook all these wires and go install them in the proper location. So I'm going to do some programming on this, and then we will jump over to some of our installation.
Alright, so this is what our panel looked like before. I'm actually voiceover recording this section just because the microphone I was using at the time decided to die. Definitely not my fault for not charging it, but I digress. Anyway, my hand movements are not going to match what I'm saying, but I will explain as best I can. Basically, this is the 1864 that we were taking out. What I'm messing with right there is an Alula IP back communicator that's coming out. The phone line's coming out. The zone expander in the top left of the cabinet up there is also coming out as well. And all the wiring right here that I am pointing to is gonna stay. That is for the smoke detectors. Pretty much everything else is coming out though, including swapping out the 4 amp batteries for one 7 amp. So I will begin taking all that out in just a moment. At this point, I was mentioning the wiring for the smoke detectors there. So as you can see, the wiring is set up so that the green is in the zone terminals and the yellow is in the commons. This is not a huge deal. They're not polarity sensitive, but technically they are backwards according to standard wiring. Typically you would have yellow in the zone terminal and green in the common. Green is more commonly known as a ground, so that is what a common is. So it makes more sense to set it up like that in case you ever need to mess with it in the future, or if anybody else comes in to do some work on your system. I don't remember what else I was talking about at the time, but basically just kind of explaining what all's coming out of the system. Most of this is going to stay wiring wise, but this is the bottom cabinet, and this is the 5204 that was powering another communicator, which was an uplink cellular communicator. Those things take a lot of power, so a supply board was needed and an extra battery, so that was put in for that purpose. The zone expander there that you see on the right is actually the only one that is going to be staying. I mean, obviously we're swapping it out with a NEO expander, but as you'll see here in a little bit, I'm removing all the zones from the top left of the top cabinet down to where that zone expander is in the bottom cabinet. The power supply is coming out. Like I said, we're swapping out both the batteries for one 7 amp that's going to be attached to the Neo main board. And that's pretty much it for the takedown. I believe I was mentioning about putting in a tamper on these cabinets as well. It's very easy to use these tamper switches. They're just depressible, normally closed loop cabinet tampers. So I'll be showing that whenever it is finished as well. In the meantime, I'm just going to show some footage about taking out what was there. The main issue we ran into was with wire labeling. So I don't know if you noticed, but almost none of the wires in that cabinet are labeled. So that is the majority of what I did while disassembling, was pulling off each of the zones one by one, labeling the wires with the appropriate zone, just so that we can keep everything straight and we know where everything goes. So if you're planning on taking out a system, your first step is always making sure all of your wiring is correctly labeled so that whenever you reinstall, you don't put anything in the wrong place. One last thing I forgot to mention is we are actually replacing the communicators with alarm.com rather than Alula or Uplink. So I'm also going to attach a TL880, which is the Neo communicator for alarm.com, and I will show that after it's done.
Alright, sorry if it's a little wobbly, I'm kind of moving the camera around a bit, but as you can see, we got pretty much everything disconnected. All the wires are taken out, the batteries are gone, we've got everything labeled up. The only thing we don't have are these water sensors down here. They were never labeled, and I'm not sure which one goes to which, so we are going to have to trace those wires, but we will come back with labels on them in a bit. But as you can see, everything else is pretty much done. We got all of our fire zones here labeled, we got a keypad labeled, and the rest of our zones. So now what we're going to do is start taking these boards out. These little standoffs here, if you just take a little screwdriver, push it up on that tab right there, it should slide right off. I don't have a lot of room to do it with the camera in, so it's going to be a little hard for you guys to see, but I will do my best to show exactly where you press on these. You should be able to see it. It's just a little tab. You push that in, and then just kind of pop the board off like that. And we're just going to do that with all of the standoffs and get all this stuff out of here. And then from there, clean up the panel. We want to leave it better than we found it. So I'm going to get some rags, wipe this all out, clean it up, and then we will start installing our DSC NEO.
As you can see right there, basically I'm just installing the new boards and I'm going to start wiring everything up. Pretty straightforward for the most part. And there I'm running the wire down to the zone expander for the key bus. I actually changed this here in just a moment because we decided to split the key bus items up on DT600s, so you'll see me do that here in just a moment. But basically that gives you more accessibility when it comes to adding additional key bus devices. Let's say we needed to add another zone expander or something in the future. It gives us open slots and you don't have to worry about the wiring in the main board. From there, I just proceeded to reconnect the firewire for the smoke detectors and everything else that was disconnected. Here in a moment, I'm going to be talking about tracing wires with a voltmeter. What I was referring to was checking continuity. At the time, I could not for the life of me remember what it was called, so you'll kind of see me stumble through what I'm trying to explain. Basically, you turn your voltmeter to the continuity setting, you twist the end of the wire together, and whenever you touch the leads on the other end of the wire, it reads a tone from the voltmeter. I'm sure most of you know what I'm talking about, but yeah, it's called checking continuity, and I don't know why I couldn't remember it at the time, but anyway, I'll let you guys watch. Just wanted to stop real quick and explain what I was doing. So we have 4 wires here that were meant as flood zones. They're not labeled. We can't trace them exactly. It goes up through the ceiling. So what I've done is at the other end of the wires, the one I'm testing right now is the bathroom. So I've twisted together the yellow and green for that wire. And I'm using this voltmeter. It's got a tone reading. Basically, if it sees a short, then it sounds a tone. So all I'm going to do at this point is set this down and then take each of these yellow and green wires and just touch the leads to these wires, and whichever one makes the tone is going to be our bathroom wire. That way we can label this and we know exactly which one it goes to. So I'll try this one first. There's no tone on that one. Try this one. No tone on that one. Move those out of the way so you know which ones you've done. Try this one. No tone on that one. Of course, it'd be the last one I check. And we got a tone. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but that means that this wire right here is the one that goes into the bathroom that I twisted together. So I'll try and get a little closer to the thing. There. When I'm touching it, it's a high-pitched tone. It lets me know that that is the wire I'm looking for. So for now, all we're gonna do is take our labels, cut one off for the bathroom flood, and we're gonna mark this wire, that way we know exactly which one goes where. So from here, I just kind of go around checking all the wires, twist them ends together one by one, and checking continuity through the voltmeter. Pretty standard stuff. So once I get all those labeled, just hooking up the rest of it, got this zone expander to do, and then we're gonna stick the battery in it, and then I will be back in just a moment, and I'm going to show you the completed panel. Okay, so here we have the finished panel. So as you can see, tried to organize everything as best we could. That little sticky isn't quite strong enough for that 18 gauge wire there. But we got our daughter board for the TL880. That's all connected up. Wires running out to that. Comms. We did have to connector the grounds for a couple of the smokes. Zones 1 and 2 both had home run 4-wire smokes with 18 gauge, and 2 on each zone, so the terminal ended up with 4 18 gauge wires in it, which was a little bit too much. So we connected those together, so we just have one lead going into the zone terminal. That makes it a lot more secure. And if we go down to the bottom panel, it's a little darker. Let me grab a flashlight. So here we have our zone expander with all of our zones. We actually have a cabinet tamper lock here. So this, along with the one from the top, are actually wired together in series here. And they are running off the tamper for the zone expander. So if either one of these cabinets is opened, then that expander is going to show the tamper. So that's one way you can cover both cabinets using just one tamper. Essentially just wire these 2 switches in series, connect them together here, and basically make one loop across the tamper and the black. Over here we have 2 DT600s. These are actually for the core bus connections. Since there was so much going on up at the top, we decided that we would just have one core bus connection. It actually runs down behind the panel into this corner right here. We actually used one of these little cable connectors, one of these, and that is just so that the sharp edges of the cabinet don't cut that wire. We actually had that issue while we were taking it out. There was a wire run down through there, and the battery got pushed against it and actually cut the wire. So, and just to avoid that, we put one of those little cable connectors in there. You don't even have to tighten it down, just keeps the wire from sitting on those sharp edges. And from there, we come down and we have our core bus connections. So we did this because of possible expansion in the future. Weren't sure if the owner was gonna keep it as is or potentially add on to it later. This is a 2032, so we're only using half of the available zones. So what we did, he's got 4 extra core bus connections there if he ever wants to add modules, more zone expanders, power supply, whatever it may be. On top of that, as you can see, there's a lot of stuff going on up in this panel because all of those smokes were home run to the panel. So trying to get all those core bus connections and everything up at the top on the actual main board was a little bit of a chore, so we went this route instead. These DT600s are great for this stuff. So now that we have that all complete, let's plug it in and see what happens. Okay, so we actually just got our alarm.com module OK message, which means our TL880 is connected properly. We do have some troubles though. It's not scrolling zones, which means all of our connections to our sensors are good. We got AC power, everything's fine. So let us check those trouble codes. We got service required, loss of clock. We'll fix that one in a moment. What else do we have? Okay, we have module tampers. Okay, so that is because we don't have the cabinets on the, or we don't have the doors on the cabinets yet, so that's going to show up until we do. The TL880 actually has the cover off, so that's where that's coming from. Let's see what else. That's it. So it looks like we are good to go.
Okay, so here is our TL880. Got her all connected up. Still need to fix both of the tampers. I gotta move it a little bit because that tamper that's in there isn't being depressed and the cover's off. So we used Firewire for the connection there, and technically if you have any sort of fire equipment on your system, your communicator needs Firewire also. So we're good on that. We have the Ethernet connected there, and as you saw, we have the alarm.com module okay, so this should be good to go once I fix these tampers.